Hey guys, today I will be playing Zoom Poker, which has just been released slightly more than a week ago. And yeah, I'll just be playing two tables of 1 cent, 2 cents. And I will be playing a tight style. Not really a tight style, but rather just a solid style. As in I am going to be calling tight but opening loose, so I'm going to be playing very loosely from late position, and I'm going to be playing rather tight and solid in early position. I think that in such a game type, people are just going to be playing tighter in general, just folding and waiting for the next hand. And you can see this guy spamming the chat. It's pretty obvious he's a recreational player. And he probably has a hand. Yeah, he's playing one table, which solidifies my initial read on him. Here, this board, I think he's going to have an ace or a pair very often, so I should just be giving up right away. Because since I do not have full equity against ace high, he checks it back again pretty quickly. I still think he has ace high and he's never folding the river. Here on this right table, I'm just going to be betting large. Hope he has a king. There are also a lot of draws. So the flush got there. I don't really think he has a deuce. So if I bet big, he will probably fold his king, thinking I might have a flush. I cannot just check call because I'm just getting. He's only going to be betting better hands and checking back all his kings. But at the same time, I still think there's value, so I should half pot it, make it smaller so he can make a crying call with a king. And when he min raises, I think it's pretty obvious he has a flush. Note that he didn't even need time to think, he just snap raised, so calling there would be a big mistake. Even though I'm getting very good pot odds, like 20%, but I think I'm good there less than 5% of the time. Here, this guy raises from late position. I want to check. He's playing one table only. I mean, he might be a button opener, but I think he's a recreational player, so his raising range should be tighter than usual. And he might not even fold hands like King 10, King 9, all those hands that are dominating my King X suited. And here I usually raise like at least a 60 to 70% range here, because a small blind open limper is really weak. And here I have a really tricky spot. I could call or fold, but he's playing 4 tables. I think he's a rag. I expect him to see bet once and give up. Here I'll just check. If I knew more about his tendencies, like if he were to limp fold a lot pre-flop or fold on the flop to a c-bet a lot, I would raise it most of the time. Here, if he bets, I think he would be having a flush a lot of the time. There's really no value, just check it down. He calls and then dongs the turn. I think he could have stuff like ace 3, ace 4, or maybe even 4-3 for the straight. I don't think I really want to continue. So I'll be using country reads and just searching their name in the search function, and maybe even looking at their status. So a person playing 1-2 cents with Silver Star, he's probably some guy who plays a decent volume, because it's pretty hard to get Silver Star, and his name can't be searched. I think he's a rag. So I'll just mark him with this color. The turn is a king, and it might be an obvious scare card, but I think it's a card that improves his range overall. King Queen beats me, King Jack beats me, King 10 beats me, Jack 10 beats me. I can only go for one more street of value in my opinion, so I'd rather check the turn and then value bet the river, or call a bet from him on the river. He still has hands like worse queens which might bet the river, or stuff like 10-8, 6-8 would all bluff the river. Yeah, we had the same hand. So it's interesting to note that he didn't re-raise ace queen, because he has no info on me, but I still think it's pretty standard. to 3-bet a button raiser with ace queen. So this guy is a bronze star, which doesn't say much, probably that he's a bad player. Yeah, he's playing one table, so just looking at such things will just give you a better feel of how your opponents are probably playing. So I think at 1-2 cents everyone is pretty bad and passive. In terms of country reads, anyone from Russia and Ukraine are probably crazy. They are very aggressive, and you have some other aggressive countries like those in Scandinavia, meaning Sweden, and I think Norway as well. Yeah, but in general, it's usually the Russians. Then you have the well-balanced aggro racks who are good. They tend to be like Germans, maybe British. But I mean, you cannot just imagine that all players from Russians are aggro, but that's just generally the case. And I would be more suspicious when they do make a move on me. Here, this open is kind of loose, but I think it's still okay. I'll just c-bet this flop. I have some backdoor flush potential, and it makes it easier to play by c-betting a low pair. If I had a higher pair, I might just check it back, because a higher pair is less vulnerable, meaning less overcuts could come on future streets. So this guy's probably a fish, because he limped pre-flop. But I mean, this 1-2, so almost everyone is a fish. Here, queen 3 is definitely strong enough to ISO a small blind limper, so I'll raise it big. And it's really free money because he's getting 25% pot odds pre-flop, so he's going to be limping a wide range, and why wouldn't he raise any strong hand unless he's some sort of trapping fish. Pocket fours, I'm just calling for set value. So I have two options: check raise or donk. Either one could work. I think I prefer to check raise to build the pot. If I knew more about how often he's c-betting, I would probably base my play on how often he's c-betting. So if I expected him to c-bet all the time, I should always go for a check raise. If I expected him to check a lot and the other guy not to step, then I should donk out right away. I do not want to give free cards because any 3 and any 5 will kill my action to a large extent. So I'm just writing notes on him. Here I'll just make a c-bet and give up on future streets. I think players with ace high will call once and check it down, so I'm actually betting for thin value against ace high, and he should have way more ace highs and maybe like pocket 8s, pocket 7s, as compared to stuff that would just bluff me out all of a sudden. And I do not really want to take a check call line without any reads on how he plays. So in order for me to take weak passive check call line as the pre-flop raiser, I need him to be the type to step maybe once or twice, bluff 1 or 2 streets in a predictable manner, then I can just check call once or twice and then fold to the third bet or something like that. But I do not really want to play guessing games, so out of position I just c-bet more often or just check fold right away. Check raising is also an option with the nuts. Here he bets weakly into me. I don't think he's that strong. He can be doing this with any jack, any queen, any like hands like ace 10. And he's a short stack and he's a bad player, so I really don't see a need to slow play or to be scared of king 10. Anyway, I block king 10. I have 2 kings, so it's not so likely he has a straight. And yeah, just in general, I'm way ahead of his range. Of Of course, if he were deeper and maybe he's a tricky, aggressive player, then I might be a bit more cautious. But there's really no reason to be afraid of a short stack. Here, I'm probably going to play it. I think he might be a regular. I think I'd rather 3-bet it since I'm out of position. If I'm in a big blind, I would probably call since I would be closing the action. It's not very good if the big blind comes along because I'll be like 3-way out of position. And then now, I'll c-bet once and give up unless I pick up a draw or a good scare card like an ace or a king. I expect him to fold his ace queen and king queen quite often, but I can't be too sure. So I think these two players are probably bad, but I'm not going to raise because under the gun limpers who are short stacks like to limp re-raise quite often, so I'll just check. And if it were a 3-way pot, I would probably bluff. It's a 4-way pot. It's a paired board, so it's very hard for anyone to hit, especially when it's 10-3-3. If it's like ace 3-3, I wouldn't want to step so much because the chances of someone having an ace is quite high. Here. I think I'll just give up. If I had maybe a backdoor flush draw like I had a7 with the ace of club, I might stab. He snap checks and the other two guys check also, so I think it's time for me to just represent that I have something. It's just based on timing and everything that happened. I don't think they are very strong. And the fact that the board is so dry. The 8 coordinates the board a little with the 10, but I think it's still very dry given that the flop is paired. So I should just bluff. Of course, if the board was more coordinated, I wouldn't try. Like if the board came a jack, I would never try to bluff that board because there's so many straight draws out. Here, I just bet once and I think I'll just give up. I do not know anything about him. So as you can see, the key about beating 1-2 is just to play solid and have a good general game plan against every opponent. We are mostly playing without reads, so we have to use different ways to get reads. And here, as I've said, and okay, I'll steal this. This is like top 60% of hands, which I think I should be able to raise profitably against any 1 cent, 2 cent big blind player. And for here, I think bottom pairs are hard to play. I do not know his tendencies, so I would just bet once, hope he calls with ace high and check it down. Or maybe he might call with a deuce, like ace deuce. King 6 is about top 65% of hands, I think. So I'll just raise it, given that I believe they cannot outplay me. Here he pots it. He shouldn't be potting. Okay, he still could have some 10s, but also he has stuff like 8-9 or 7-6, so I wouldn't mess around with him. Queen 9. It's a loose race. This is like I think top 30%, but I would open it. I think I can play like 30% from the cutoff and maybe 70 to 80% from the button. Yeah, I'll be raising a wide range, and small blind I could raise 50 to 60% of hands, depending on the opponent. I wouldn't want to be all that loose in the small blind though, because on one hand, while I don't think they would 3-bet me very often, but I think they might be stationed, so I still want to play hands with some sort of playability. If I knew they were very tight, then I would raise like 100% of hands. So I think ace king is just easy 3-bet and get it in, given that I'm not really deep. And of course, you see me raising to 3 big blinds in every position. Maybe you could raise larger in early position since our range is going to be stronger there anyway. You want to go for more value. Here, as I've said, I'm going to be isolating with like ISO raising with, not really ISO raise because it's hit some already, but I'll just raise it. I think he's very weak, and he falls on the flop or pre-flop really often. And like this is a decent board to see bet, so just bet a bit more than half pot. So I just think that I can make very accurate decisions against him, and I have a lot of pre-flop and flop full equity. Now he check shots, obviously I would just fold. Here king 9, I think when both cards are 9 and above, I shouldn't really be folding to a limb. Question is whether to raise or to limb along. If I win the button, I'm definitely raising. Here I don't really have any idea about how often he limb folds pre-flop or folds on the flop, so I will just limb along. This is probably the safest line to take. So the question now is, do I check call or bet? I think I wouldn't mind just checking, or check fold even. I'll just try to show it down. It'll be a bit tricky to play. Here I'm definitely not folding this against a min raise. Wouldn't be out of the question for him to bluff. I need to be good here, like 28 to 30% of the time. Does he have enough busted draws? I think yes, but it's very close. It's kind of a tricky spot because I have no idea about his ranges. I could also just fold right away on the river. But I thought the board is 9-10 ace. He should be raising with his strong aces a lot of the time. Here I'll just squeeze. Okay, this is kind of bad. I'm putting him on like ace queen, maybe ace king if he's trappy. The other guy calls as well, which I expect him to have a pocket pair very often. So on this queen high board where this guy either has a mid pocket pair or ace queen, I'm not going to be messing around with this board. I'll just give up. Even if it were heads up, I would give up right away on this board. I would see bet against this guy, but I would give up against him if he called. Here I have an interesting decision. He's Russian, so he might spaz at me. I think I will just check call 2 streets. I don't expect him to fight the third barrel though at this limit. He checked pretty quickly, so I'm thinking whether I should try to go for value. Okay, so this guy is kind of bad. Cold call a 3 bet, squeeze with ace jack, and check down 3-way on. And the other guy's plays standard though, so he called me on the turn. The jack makes it easier for me to value bet the river, but I'm wondering whether he can have worse. Let me. He's playing 2 tables, so he's probably not that bad, because bad players usually play 1 table only. I think I will check call the river. He might have busted flush draw. I mean, I felt I was good quite often, but I'm not sure whether I could value bet. If I had a higher 9, like king 9, ace 9, I'm definitely value betting against worse 9s. He had ace queen. Yeah, he might even call the river. I'm not sure whether he would do so. Here, jack 5. This is like top 70 or 75% of hands. I still think I can steal it profitably. 8 7 BB open. If I call this, it has to be like purely semi. I think it's quite strong. I'll just fold right away. Because I'm not sure whether he's raising that only with the nuts or maybe like ace king, ace queen, and maybe I'm bluff catching the flop once on a wrong in a wrong situation because I'm not sure about his ranges. Here I'll just half pot it, hope he folds. I'm usually very suspicious when people check raise such boards. It's such a standard spot for them to bluff raise. And I mean standard is to fold right away, but when I see a fish check raise a pad board, I really don't believe them. So point is just to call flop and bluff the turn. Yeah, so I was right. It's like pretty standard, like fishers like to check it down to the river and then bluff with their bastard draws. They also like to check raise the flop pad flops on the time, even if it's like deuce deuce 5 and they can't really wrap the deuce. Here I just stab at it, it's kind of dry. I think ace 9 might be strong enough to ISO raise. I'll just make it big. I want to make it heads up. If he limb from under the gun, I would probably just limb along. Maybe if it's like ace 6 or below, I wouldn't raise it. Ace 7 is kind of close. We're going to think about what hands we are dominating and what hands we are getting dominated by. This board is dry, so even if it's 3-way, I don't mind c-betting. Though I might be giving up at higher limits pretty often. I tend to have a more balanced flop continuation betting range at higher limits since the players are better. I think at lower limits I would just take more straightforward lines, I guess. This is really tricky. He might have a queen, he might have a flush. He might even be turning some hands into a bluff. Like I wouldn't be surprised if he just bets 4x or 8x into me. I think I'll just call, but I don't feel good about it. Yeah. Technically speaking, if he was never turning hands into a bluff, I can fold that river. Because everything got there. The flush got there. He would never bet a pair if he's not turning hands into a bluff. And he would always bet a queen as well. So I would be able to fold. But I think a lot of the time, like, players like to just check out ace high and then try to wrap the flush on the river. And it's pretty common, so I don't think I really wanted to fold. Could also get a good read on his tendency, so I believe he limbed and I'm not sure where the hand is. This is like top 35% or 40% of hands, I think. I think it's okay to open it. But that's a bit too wide, so you need to have a significant skill edge on your opponents to open such weak hands. It's definitely an open on the button though, and this is definitely an ISO raise. Okay, so this guy limb called King Queen offsuit from cut off, which is a pretty terrible play. Here, this board is so coordinated, any jack, any nine might not fold, given how fishy they are. Here, I'm giving up on this board. It would be interesting to see whether I could bluff catch this or not. I don't really know whether I can call once or I have to call twice, and he makes it kind of big. Although he has a lot of stuff like Queen Jack, King Jack, Ace Jack, King Queen, or the busted draws. I think I'll just fold right away. I'm not going to be calling, I'll just fold right away. I wouldn't raise him without any equity. There isn't even a spade on the board, so I can't pick up a flush draw on a turn. So mark him as green, which is my fish color. And here I'm definitely 3-betting him. Wow, I'll just fold right away. He either has junk or he has aces and kings, and he has a monster more often from my experience against random fish. Okay, here I have top set, I crashed the board so hard. Best line is to check. If it were more draw heavy like ace, king, queen, then I would see bet. Kind of a tricky spot. And now do I just suddenly start betting? I think just hoping he has a weak ace, which is not very likely, or king queen, which calls 2 streets. So I'll bet 2/3 pot and half pot the river to let him make a crying call with king queen. And if he has a worse hand, he would probably just fold right away. So it can't be helped. I do not even know whether he would turn anything into a bluff or not. So best thing is just to bet the turn and river and just hope he calls with a king. Same concept, I crashed the board so hard, so check. Now hope he has a 9 or ace high, which might call 2 streets. I don't think he's turning ace high into a bluff all of a sudden. But he was from Russia, so maybe I might want to let him bluff. I'm not really sure though, because I don't really know how he plays. Obviously I'll just fold. I don't even know how strong he is, but there's really no point messing around with such a big bet. So I think I'll play a few more minutes and wrap this up. So yeah, in case some of you did not already know, I actually made this YouTube channel just to give some insights into how I approach the game. So if you do find my analysis and commentary useful, you can check out the link below for my book. I wrote a book in January entitled The Art of Poker. I also illustrated all the drawings, and it's like 20,000 plus words, and it covers a lot of topics, and it's aimed at players who play regularly but have not really invested the time into working on their game. So yeah, I think it's pretty useful. It goes through stuff like reasons for betting, reasons for checking, having a good flop plan, when to barrel the turn, when to barrel the river, how to gauge relative hand strength, and having a very good solid pre-flop theory. Like I explained why limping is bad. Talking about the various advantages you can have in poker, such as hand strength, skill advantage, initiative, and position. So when you are playing, you should be thinking about all those factors. Yeah, stuff like that. I even go through non-technical aspects. I mean, I touched a bit on like mindset and mindset, um, raking, tipping, stuff like that. Yeah, just anything that can help to improve your win rate. So yeah, do check it out. And I'm selling it for $10. It's in an ebook format, so you can either download it on your computer or your iPhone even, or maybe your Kindle. It's available at Smashwords, so it's available in a variety of formats. Yeah, so I'll just play a few more hands and then end it, and maybe make one or two more videos at higher limits. So Jack 7 I'll be folding. Here I think is really strong. I do not know how he plays. He's probably a regular, but I doubt he would be getting out of line here. I'll just fold right away. Because I believe his range there is like queens plus and ace king almost always. I don't expect him to really have a bluff range. This is interesting. My hand is pretty strong, but I wonder whether I can bet and barrel. I don't think I have a lot of full equity on the turn. I'll just bet as standard. Yeah, I really don't expect anyone to be folding. And I'm not even sure whether they would fold the turn. I think a hand like king queen and king jack would never consider folding. So that my alternative is to check call the flop. But I don't really mind building the pot with such a strong combo draw. He is a one-tabling fish, so I think he's never folding a king. Just hope he checks back. Okay, he makes it so small, and my ace high beats all the busted draws. I really think he is busted draw. I'm getting 20% pot odds. He definitely has a busted draw 20% of the time. Wow. So yeah, pretty surprising. I mean, I wouldn't put that in his range. And given that he's a passive fish, I wouldn't expect him to be betting the river with king jack or king queen. And I would expect him to raise sets pretty often at some point in the time. Although passive fish might just choose to trap, like what he did in this case. So yeah, I think I'm more or less happy with my play. Although my alternative line on the flop could be to check call the turn and check call the flop maybe. Cause on that king 10-7 board it's coordinated, and I don't really think they're folding anything worse. I mean I don't think they're folding better hands that often. But I could potentially maybe fold out a 10 which called the flop, or I could fold out a weak king if they somehow had it. Yeah, okay, so I'll just sit out the next big blind and I will end the session when I am blinded out. Queen 10, it's I believe top 30% of hands. Definitely isolating this limper with a big raise. I've been thinking a lot about optimal sizing against such players. So it could be 4x, 5x or 6x, 6 big blinds. Especially when they limp from under the gun, I usually don't want to make it so big because the chances of facing a limb raise is a lot higher. if this were a blank 8, like the 8 of heart, I might bet the turn again, because there are a lot of worse hands that could call. I think I'll check back. I would call a lot of blank rivers, but this is really interesting. Like, I think he could potentially take this line with like 9 of spade, so I would fold. Okay, so we are done for this session. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. So this is Galvin, and I am making another video soon. So stay tuned and subscribe if you like my stuff. Thanks. Bye.